Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's Friday night, and you know what that means. It's not Wednesday. We're doing a special Saturday Friday night edition of Hey, did you see this one? Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to a very special Friday edition of Hey, did you see this one? I'm your host this week only because we're doing Friday the 13th, and my name is Jason. It is Friday, October 14th. Things didn't align this year, I guess, but I am here with my very special hosts. They're special in that they're my only hosts, and I wouldn't trade them for anybody, except for I'd probably trade you guys for The Rock. And I'd probably do a little trade to Rooney for Bob Barker circa the 70s.
That's a good trade.
Can you guys guess who I would trade who for? It doesn't matter. Anyway, please welcome to the show as always, Steve and Kaylin.
I want to guess The Rock.
I'm coming in hot. I'm coming in hot.
I think he meant which one of us would be replaced by which celebrity, Kaylin.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm replaced by The Rock.
That's a tall guess. That is a tall
But was
guess.
it correct?
I didn't really think about that before I said it. So
Can I be replaced by Russell Brand?
Yeah, sure. So this week, it tracks if you see Kalen when he has like a scraggly beard and scraggly hair. It makes sense. Doesn't make sense when he kind of looks like The Rock right now. If The Rock was a pale white man, I shouldn't
Samoan?
talk. Well, I shouldn't talk. Look how fucking pale I look tonight under these bright lights here on Hey.
Oh, I didn't turn my lights on.
There you go. Now you've got flesh. Now you've got flesh tone. Yeah. So we've opened up the Grimoire of Familiar Killers once again.
Sequel series.
The
Part 2.
Spooktacular sequel series. You know we like long names for things. After all, our show is called Hey, did you see this one? That's kind of a mouthful. But this
Falls right off the tongue.
This week Friday the 13th Part 2. I guess we'll get to our history with this particular sequel, and let's start with Kaylin this week.
Hello. So, my growing up, I think I remember seeing one or two scary movies, and just in general, scary movies just weren't my bag. Not that they scared me like, oh my God, but they just didn't entertain me the way that I liked to be entertained at the time. And when there's one, put $1 in the jar for that one. Damn it, $2.
You already missed an too. You're at like
yeah, you've already done it several times.
My bad. Put them all in the dollar jar or the jar. Anyway, so when COVID hit is when I started kind of going back in time and checking out stuff that, people that refer to as classics or like pioneers, etc. And October of the beginning of COVID, I was like, ooh, spooky season. Let's watch scary movies. So I went through a huge run of all the movies that we're doing, like these movies plus their sequels and prequels. And so that's when I saw like this movie for the first time. It was like 2 years ago. I could kind of see the value in it. Like I could try to put my mind back in time for when it first came out and kind of see like, oh, okay, yeah, all right. I could see this being, captivating and that sort of thing. But watching it in 2020 and being subjected to all the various forms of entertainment and media and scariness and etc. There wasn't as much of a wow factor to it, but I was disappointed with the first one, not really knowing who the killer was. Like I always thought that Jason was the killer, and for the first one, I don't want to spoil anything, but most people probably already know. This one though starts to utilized him, and then moving forward. Exact. Yeah, the one hole in the bag head. Did you notice that? The one hole, is that what you're doing?
Yep.
Yeah. Which we find out later why, I guess. But so this was definitely has a campy, like old school campy horror flick film, which I think would be an awesome experience at a drive-in movie theater late at night. You know, you got the sound on your radio, you got the movie up on the screen, you're in your car with your friend or whoever. And so after watching these movies, these horror movies, these scary movies, they're actually comedies. Like I'm over here laughing my ass off almost the whole time. Like they're hilarious. And I did enjoy it. And that was my first time, and I was glad to revisit it again this month. Back to you.
Fantastic. Yeah, that's kind of pretty much sums it up. Steve, why don't you add on to that?
Boobs.
Boobies.
Boobs and butts.
Butts, especially that one butt. Whoa, wee wee.
My first time seeing this was many, many years ago. I don't actually remember, because these movies, when I watch them, I tend to watch them in a big chunk, or I'll watch a couple of them at the same time. So I don't really remember, differentiate them until I'm watching them. But the first time I saw it was probably like, I don't know, when I was in my high school era, when I really started to drop into all of these franchises and digest them and enjoy them, because I have said it many times before, I was terrified of everything as a child. But I, slowly but surely decided I'm not going to be scared of this anymore. I'm going to force myself to watch these things. And like Kaylin said, they're super funny. The entire premise is ridiculous, but these movies exist basically to set up creative ways to kill people. And Jason is maybe one of the kings. They all are, but this one in particular, it's like, what can we do in this setting that would be entertaining? And they're not, some of them are spooky, some of them are creepy, but as they go on, they get ridiculous. There's a moment in Jason Takes Manhattan where somebody gets their head sucker punched off, which is hilarious to watch. But yeah, I don't really have a specific memory of watching this for the first time, but I've definitely seen it before, and watching it, I was pleasantly surprised to have a 10-minute previously on Friday the 13th, basically.
Oh my God, that was brutal.
I was like, oh yeah, cool. They're summing up the other movie for us. And I believe the third one does the same thing, where they basically spend 10 minutes just recapping this whole movie and showing flashbacks.
It's funny you mentioned that, because I was like, wow, that's helpful if I didn't see the movie so recently. Yeah. Also, I think there was only like 1 year in between movies, right?
I don't know.
I think this one might have been a little bit more than 1 year. I think it was 2 or 3. I think.
It's 81 for this movie, so I can't. Yeah. It was 79 had to be the furthest back that the first one was.
I think that might be right.
Let me just double check. Yeah, 1 year.
Yeah,
it was 80, 81, 82, and then there was a 2-year break for the fourth one.
I'm pretty sure that this is I am sure now, but I was thinking it's a fully 80s. Its heyday is the 80s, started in the 80s, and pretty much ran through the whole 80s. I know there's like after the 80s there are movies, but the main Jason mythos was created in the 80s. It's very, when you think of the 80s, Friday the 13th is definitely the whole king of horror, and Freddy, but we'll get to Freddy I think next week.
And Halloween
also, but Halloween feels like the 70s to me for some reason, just because of the way. Anyway, those are other different movies. This is the gritty one. That's how I see it. I remember Friday the 13th freaking me out. Just the idea of a killer who's like an undead giant man with a hockey mask, fucking
great hair,
killing people in the woods. Because I lived in the woods when I was a little kid, and I had
no hockey mask in this one though.
And I had all these friends who would have sleepovers, and they'd watch all the fucking movies. I'd miss sleepovers. School on Monday, they'd be like, we watched Friday the 13th, and I specifically remember this one, people talking about it because of the head, like Steve's picture there with the head on the shrine. his mom in the sweater.
Mom.
And then it freaked me out that that was a thing because, you know, you see the covers of the later Jason movies and you see the hockey mask and, you know, it's people walking around the corner getting an axe to the face. But these older ones, we talked about last year, these older ones are a little bit more nuanced where Jason basically does very little killing until the last 35 minutes. And then it's just a hilarious string of pretty tame murders. But what I like about it is in the first movie, like you said, it's not even Jason at all. It's his mom doing the killing, and we never see the monster. We see her at the very end, right? And then we see the young Jason pop out of the water, right? What might have been a dream. This movie ends the same way. Who fucking knows what that means? And basically, I always had this like idea in my head that it was one thing, but really it's not. It's this movie about these like. The first one, they were like dumb and way more grab-assy, and this they were like pretty like none of them really deserved to die. Two kids just were like, we gotta go see what Camp Crystal Lake looks like, and they walk over and they're like, I saw it, but it already looked like Jason was stalking them. So I can't even see that as like the reason why he comes onto their territory at that point. He's already there in the woods. The cop is
wasn't it that crazy guy from town originally that was stalking them? I think he was just a pervert. He was waiting for them. He was like, ooh, these teens are going to hook up.
No, I don't. No.
Remember when he was watching them at the window?
Well, he's in the first movie.
He's in the first movie, yeah. He's like, you don't want to go. He's the you don't want to go down that road character. Anyway, I digress. My point is I remember as a kid, this one specifically, because the idea of like him having his mom's head always grossed me out. And I know that idea evolves as the movies go on until like it becomes a worm or some shit that like possesses people. Anyway, I'm gonna watch the rest of these movies because I'm actually like I almost put the next one on after this one ended today. So like this one made me and the other thing that I really love about this one specifically, we'll get into the review after I say this. I like seeing the evolution of it not being Jason to a version of Jason that it could very well have possibly stayed as. That would have been a fine murderer.
Baghead Man?
Baghead Man with one eye. But then the fact that it goes to the iconic mask in the next one, and they probably later down the road have like explanations or like, you know what I mean? Like little storytelling bits that make it make sense. I like that to see that evolution. Chucky, Freddy, and Mike Myers all look the same throughout their whole run pretty much. I guess Chucky's face gets broken over time. And Mike Myers.
They also they couldn't find the original Shatner mask for Halloween for Mike Myers.
Yeah, but you can just fucking spray paint any weird.
Guys, it's Michael Myers. Stop calling him Mike Myers.
Mike Myers. No, I'm talking about Mike Myers from.
Yeah, baby.
Yeah, baby.
Yeah.
From the what's that offshoot show that from his old dating a whatever. Anyway,
So I Married an Axe Murderer. That movie rules. That was the perfect movie for this channel actually. But yeah, that's basically my history with this particular one, and I'm so excited to be watching the sequels because I feel like I was disappointed, like Kayla was saying, with the original Friday the 13th, and this one, much like Chucky 2, feels like it's like a remake of the first one, just better. It's still not great. Like it hasn't reached. It's gonna take a while for it to reach the heights of the lore. Yeah. Chucky hit the ground running, I gotta say, but this and Halloween as well, I feel like we're gonna need a couple before they get truly great. And I think Freddy, Nightmare on Elm Street hit the ground running so hard that his kills are gonna get immediately more elaborate. So I'm excited to see. I'm excited to see what happens with the other two sequels because of this particular sequel. Back to me. So I'm like, oh yeah, I'm hosting. I gotta move this ship. I gotta move this boat along in the old water Rooney. So how do you guys want to do it? I took pretty good notes. I can go through the movie, but the thing is the movie doesn't have a lot of substance. It's basically like a bunch of shit.
How do we isolate this person so they die?
Yeah, and then how do we get these people alone? There's one big split later in the movie. I'm just gonna kind of go through my notes. We get a 10-minute flashback, so we can kind of skip over that. Basically, the girl from the first movie, what's her name? Cindy?
Ginny?
No, Ginny's the one in this one.
Ginny's the main one of this one.
I can't remember her name.
I love you, Ginny.
Nope. That's
Yeah,
Jenny.
not a great impression
And
to do.
Not a good impression to do. Anyway,
I love gin and tonic.
They show the flashbacks to the last like 15 minutes of the first movie, the fight with her and Mrs. Voorhees. They show the decapitation.
The fucking her face to the sand.
Yeah,
that I felt that was like, oh.
But also, I think we talked about this last year. That fight choreography is dog shit. Awful.
Yeah, they probably were just like, go at it.
Do just something.
Well, I think we went over this last year. That fight is actually, like, for the most part, not the two actors. It's just two random stunt guys just going at each other.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it was because they were trying to get the actors to do it, and the actors were not being heavy-handed enough, so they just put a couple wigs on some people and said, fight!
Steve, do you know what the production choice was to turn it from Baghead into a hockey mask? Like, do you know if there's a story behind it? Because it feels like they needed, like, the other people in the pantheon of murderers for the era all had their own individual looks, and Baghead Man kind of just like, and even when he has the mask off and we see Jason's face, he just kind of looks like Leatherface. Is it because they wanted to sort of have him stand on his own? Because that's
I think I mean, he doesn't get it until the third movie. Jason
he finds it.
Yeah, I think it's just like he didn't have anything covering his face, and in the movie he picks it up to have something to shield his face with.
He's ashamed.
In terms of production, they probably were just trying to find something that was cheap and would be kind of imposing. And they probably went and bought like 5 or 6 different things and then just looked at the actor with it on and was like, this one's the scariest, or this one's the most interesting, or the most iconic, the one that will stick into people's minds, right? The same thing was with Friday the 13th. They went to the store and bought 2 $1 masks, and they were like, it was a Shatner mask and just a clown mask. And
Halloween,
Halloween, and they just did some altercations to the Shatner mask. It was just like, you know what, this is good. A lot of these, there's not a lot of thought into them. Chucky is way different because they're like, we need to have a crazy animatronic doll. We want them to look scary, so a lot of planning went into that. But that was later in the sort of this series of these movies. They had a bigger budget, right? And that's the case with all these movies from the first to the second. Chucky probably having the biggest budget for the first one, but the Friday the 13th, Halloween, and Nightmare on Elm Street, all tiny budgets, and because the return was so high, that's why you saw so many sequels so close together, because they're like, we can make bank off of this. I believe Halloween still has like the record for the largest gross in comparison to the amount of money spent. They only spent about $100,000 on it, and it made, I think, like 20,000, which is like percentage wise ridiculous. Or 20 mil, which is like ridiculous.
Also, I noticed they went back to the formula almost of putting out 2 Halloween movies year back to back. Like there was one last year, and then Halloween Ends came out this year. And I know that they've over the years taken giant breaks, but I always feel like 2 come out. They usually produce a couple. And I know that the new Halloween, they kind of created a new timeline. So, you know.
Yeah, I think they got rid of every sequel except the second one, I believe.
I think it was just 1 and 2. Yeah, and then they skipped the others.
1 and 2, and then Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends. And that's the official canon series. 4 movies, and there's fucking how many?
I like Rob Zombie's Halloween. I thought they were pretty good.
It's because you're a twisted pervert.
Those
movies were like violent pornography. Those movies were just like, how
that's what these movies
painful
are, though.
That's what people think they're supposed to be, people like Rob Zombie, but they're supposed to be fun. They're not supposed to be like watching something horrific to the point that it turns your stomach. Like that's not why I'm watching a Friday the 13th movie. No, I'm watching a Friday the 13th movie for funny, goofy kills and characters making, ribbing each other before they get their head cut off or whatever. Like it's supposed to be entertaining. It's not supposed to be painful to watch. That's what my issue with the Rob Zombie movies were, is that they were too mean-spirited in their murdering of people.
I probably wouldn't be able to handle those personally. And also the Michael Bay Friday the 13th reboot, I think, has a similar like.
No, that one's actually pretty fun.
Oh, it is fun.
It has the same sort of heart as these.
I think that's the one reboot I haven't seen yet.
And it's not. And Michael Bay didn't direct it; he just produced it.
The
director is just some other guy. I can't remember who the director is actually.
Probably one of his friends.
I can't remember if it was the Friday the 13th or the remake of Halloween, but the opening scene is like a kid trying to pick a mask. I think it's Halloween. Especially now I've seen Halloween and the kid's in an asylum. It must have been the Rob Zombie Halloween, but I didn't get to the movie part. Anyway, so we get through that scene, we see the flashback, and now the movie basically we get at the end of that flashback segment, it's cutting in between her remembering, she's having like a dream, she's rolling back and forth. She's a bad actor, so it sounds like porno moaning versus like her being afraid in a dreamscape. Anyway, she wakes up and then there's a man in her house skulking around, and there's two like really there's two deaths in this that are like gross compared to other ones which aren't too bad. And this first one is the most shocking, I think, in the whole movie. It made me jump. He grabs her from behind and then slowly pushes like some sort of like ice pick or something into her face.
Yeah, I think it was a screwdriver.
And that made me go, "Oh, is that?"
I think it was a Phillips head. Which one's the flat one?
That star is Phillips, because Phillips are stars. That's a thing my dad always said when I was a kid.
Hey, your last name's Phillips.
Yeah, that's
the joke. It's the joke, man.
So that was the most. I was like, "Oh, is that going to be the tone for this second one? Are they already getting into like what I was afraid of?" And they really don't. The only other one is the fucking machete to the face, which is just shocking. And it's
splitting headache, if you will.
That was the one that I was like, oh my god.
Yeah, and then
Andy's in a wheelchair and going backwards
down the stairs, and I'm like, was that necessary?
I think that part, it cuts in a weird it zooms into the screen kind of thing, and it has like this wow kind of effect to it, and I guarantee it's because that dummy on the wheelchair probably flip-flopped out of there halfway down the stairs and they couldn't get a take that was clean, so they're like, "I'll just edit this," and
the head popped off and wouldn't go back on.
Oh, yeah.
I have a question for you guys.
Okay.
So during the beginning kind of intro of the movie, damn, there's another dollar in the jar. She gets a shower.
If you mention that you're doing it every time, that's $50 in the jar. So just move past it, please.
It's way worse when you mention it every time.
Well, but if I address myself, it'll make me stop that much more. Like, it'll help. Anyway, so there's a part in the intro, and I think it happens one or two other times with other characters, where I believe it's after she gets a shower, she comes out, but she looks right at the camera.
Yeah, there's a couple of moments where people look right into the camera.
Yeah, there's two or three other ones. Yeah,
they don't like it.
I think that scene was paying.
What do you think the reasoning was, though?
I think that particular scene.
She's a bad actor and accidentally looked into the camera.
Well, they wouldn't allow that.
They would in the 80s. They didn't fucking.
If you have a limited amount of film, they can't just delete the hard drive. They had to just go with it.
This movie was made for $60. My point is also, but that scene very specifically paid homage to Psycho, so I think she had to look towards the camera just sort of to complete the scene, and then she just looked right down the barrel because she, like you said,
I feel like it was just trying to do what Halloween, the first one, did, which is the beginning of Halloween. There's this really, really long, complicated one shot where it just goes through the entire house up the stairs. They even do a thing where the camera goes up and down when it's killing the woman. And I think that because that was one of the most impressive parts of the first movie was that opening sequence. And I think they were trying to do something similar here where they're like, we're going to have one long shot that follows her through the whole house. And it doesn't end until the cat gets thrown through the window by the stuffed cat gets thrown through the window by somebody off screen or whatever.
Oh, man.
So obviously thrown.
I've got some things to say about an animal in this movie. So anyway, I didn't read through my notes as I was saying them. So she wakes up from the recap dream. I wanted to just make a special mention to the intro.
Shitty credits.
Well, the credits
so boring.
The credits were boring, but the actual title card was so intense.
Yes.
Part 2.
I was
Yeah.
like,
It exploded for some
reason.
reason. There's no explosions in this movie. Why did that explode? It's so
Next one.
crazy.
The next one.
Because it's the 80s.
Yeah.
But think about how amazing the opening sequence or opening credits of the second Chucky was. Like how it's going through the conveyor belt of the dolls being made, and it's all so complicated while they're putting the names on screen, and how entertaining that is. Like, I love a good opening credits if they're doing something with it, but when it's just a black screen showing the names with intense music, I'm like, oh, come on, please.
I think they were going for the vibe of the cover of the movie behind Kaylin, just that plain
sure that's
outline.
But
do
vibe
outlines and
boring.
other things on it. Like, it costs nothing to draw images and put them on film, right?
Show a guy,
comparatively.
pay a little bit of, like, do a little bit of foreshadowing, even like
Yeah.
just have these sort of like chalk outline bodies of all the deaths that are going to be in the movie, and then you get an idea of what's going to happen. It'd be more interesting than just a black
I'd
screen.
rather no credits. Let's just go. Like, I'd
Well,
rather.
Well, that's what they do now.
That's what they do
Caleb.
now, because people were over it. By the time the 90s rolled around, people were like, we're still doing intros. We're still doing like full intro sequences.
There were still a bunch, like in the early 2000s, even up to like 2010 and stuff. Like Tim Burton used to love a good opening credits,
but he
and
would do stuff with them.
Yeah, same
Same
Raimi,
with
same
Raimi.
thing.
You have intricate stuff.
Because
Dark
you watch
Knight,
the-
though,
You watch the Evil
Chris
Dead
Nolan's
movie,
Dark
and
Knight, it's just boom right into it.
yeah, but that's because people are stupid now, Kayla. they can't handle a musical interlude with some interesting visuals and names on screen. They're like, and then they would show up like 20 minutes late to the movie to skip it, and it just was ruining everybody else's experience. There's so many reasons for it to get removed, but
I never considered that. Like, do you think that was a thing? Like, people were just outside smoking pot and drinking beer, tailgating until they're like,
Star Wars was
movie
the first
probably
movie.
starts.
Star Wars was the first movie to not have credits in 1977, and George Lucas was kicked out of the Film Directors Guild because of it, because he was like, no, I don't want to have credits. I want it to be explosive right away. I want to have the little title card a long time ago, and then Star Wars. And the Directors Guild like fought him about it forever. They're like, you have to have all of the credits. It's part of the actors union. It's part of the tradesmen. It's all of it. They have to have their names up there at the beginning of the movie, and that's it. And he's like, no, I'm going to release it independently.
I'm going to make sure that everybody waits and sees them at the end of the movie. We want to see this title scroll once a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away.
I don't know why our impressions of him are just fucking sort of Kermit the Frog.
Well, he kind of talks like that.
He just kind of talks like
Does he?
Kermit the Frog. Kermit the Frog here. What if there was a Jar Jar Binks?
Anyway,
so
the reason they don't do it anymore is because of people's attention spans. Like, they just
absolutely, yeah. But I mean, even like romantic comedies would just have like something happening, like an opening shot. Comedies still, I think Judd Apatow likes to do this too, where something's just happening on the screen, like a scene.
Yeah, I watched the
like
40-year-old version the other day.
It's like a sitcom, right? Like there's just the titles.
Yeah, it's like Steve Carell is getting up and it's just showing his morning routine while the credits are going. So you're gaining a little bit of insight on the character through this moment of where they're also placing everyone's name on screen. They would treat it like a process that they had to go through in filmmaking at one time. But if you go far enough back, like Wizard of Oz, for example, it's just like 15 minutes of a black and white cloud with all the names coming up in
sepia, or whatever it's called. That brown and
no, it was black and white. Sepia tone is a different thing.
Sepia tone is like, yeah, it's like Western movies have.
It's like there's like a certain process, a chemical process that they couldn't get it to look black and white. Anyway, yeah, it's
the other thing
like
about
aged,
super old movies like that is you would get a program much like when you go to the theater. So that extremely long intro would have probably a great composed long, sort of the whole song that you're going to hear throughout the movie. With all the credits coming up. By the time that we would see Wizard of Oz on television, they probably truncated that down to like a few minutes, But the theater going experience...
Still pretty long.
Yeah. But the theater going experience was a completely different beast in the 1940s and 50s, right? Like, it was a different experience. Like, you like made it the whole night. You don't just go see a movie in the 1950s. You make it your whole fucking evening. Then you're in bed by 8:30 and you're up
Meet
at
Me in
6:00.
St. Louis has a intermission.
Yeah,
where you would get up and go take a piss and get some more popcorn and come back and
that's where the song
sit down and watch Judy Garland sing
like,
"Rang, rang, rang with the bell."
Let's go out to the let's go out to this place and get ourselves
Lobby.
a snack.
Let's
lobby.
go out to the lobby.
Yeah,
Let's go out to the
word
place.
No,
Get
I was gonna say
yourself a hot dog.
I was gonna say let's go to the kitchen, and that's from like a remake of a commercial. In
A
the
whole
90s.
theater just
That's a
busts into the
modernized
kitchen.
version. Yeah.
There's no kitchen in a movie theater.
Well, there
But
is
there's
in
a
the,
kitchen in your house
in the
where you
back
watch
of-
movies now.
in the back of the concession stand. There's probably a kitchen where they have to
I worked at a movie theater.
unpackage the hot dogs.
It's just a giant nasty sink
It's
and
a sink.
and a microwave.
In a
yeah.
fridge, and a deep freeze, and a big tub.
Yep,
sink.
there's a walk-in freezer where everything is just completely frozen. The butter is like an ice block. You got to put it in the microwave for like 20 minutes on high, and sometimes it's still
I
not
feel like that would
melted
break
in
the
time.
microwave. Microwaving something for 20 minutes?
It was
I
a
can't-
big microwave because the butter was like a giant tub of butter too. And then you had to put these giant gloves on to grab it, and you'd be like spilling it. It would be all slippery. I dropped it one time, and it
Oh
went
no.
everywhere.
fucking
And I had to
day,
spend like
yeah.
2 hours mopping up all this base cell.
How do you?
I
mop
spilled the
up,
butter again.
How do you?
Butterfingers.
How do you mop up butter? That must have literally taken you 2
I'll
hours.
tell you,
Popcorn?
over the course of 2 hours, it takes forever. You have to basically replace the mop head like every.
What about
Every
sand?
round.
Maybe throw some sand on it.
You know what, Kaylin? I'll call up the theaters and let them know.
That's
you
what
guys
we did at
considered
BP,
sand?
I think we would throw, or maybe it was salt or baking soda. If there was like an oil spill,
Yeah,
we'd
it was
put
salt.
something.
When we worked in the kitchen, I one time fucking
Shredded
left
rubber.
the valve
Were you
open.
draining the
I was
fryer?
draining the
and you
fryer
forgot
and I
to-
left the valve
Yeah.
open.
Yeah.
And I poured hot oil right onto my feet.
Oh my god,
Yeah,
I've done that before too. It burned my flesh off of my bones.
Yeah, and then somebody.
And now you're a skeleton.
Ryan.
No, but I have a-
asked me,
do have
was
a
like,
permanent
"Put
burn
plum
all over my
sauce
foot."
on it," and I still don't know if that was like a fun home remedy or a fucking kitchen troll prank. You never know. People will tell you stuff in the kitchen, and you got to be like, I don't
Yeah.
know if that's a home remedy.
Put peanut
or-
butter on it. Yeah.
I don't know
Like,
if that's a
what?
home remedy, or if you're trying to make
Target?
it worse because you're a dickhead fucking kitchen worker.
Some
Anyway,
people are.
we get it to the movie finally, and fucking there's the two hippies. Their names are like Terry and.
We'll just call them
Terry.
Hippie and Dippy.
I called them hippies, and all through my notes, I didn't take the time to learn their names at any point. I called
Well,
them the hippies.
okay, we'll call them Hippie and Nippy because
Hippie and
that
Nippy,
that
'cause,
one lady has enormous breasts that are continuously and constantly on screen all the time.
Well, you gotta get your
Just
you
like,
gotta
here
get
they
your
are.
mileage. It's 1981. That's what the teens want to see. They want to see giant boobs.
I think only one person gets nude though. I mean,
Just-
they get nude when they're doing it, but like you don't see anything.
just the quote
Skinny
unquote
dip and
hot
check
girl.
with the butt.
The hot girl goes for a skinny dip, and then the pervy weirdo who never gets his comeuppance. Well, I guess he gets.
Yeah, that guy had some real incel energy going on, like early incel.
But like he was like an attractive guy. I thought that he was playing coy with her at first because they were gonna obviously hook up and both get murdered. But they did that same thing with the two hippies, where they.
Oh, the leader guy, or like the head counselor or whatever.
No, not that dude, not Phil or whatever. The fucking
The two people you meet at the beginning in the phone booth.
Yeah.
Oh, the guy with the big mouth that you were talking about, like the big, like.
Yes, Hippie and Dippy.
Hippie dippy. No, but
Sorry,
I was
Nippy.
talking about the hot girl and the incel guy who
Oh.
like shoots her with a fucking slingshot in the
A
butt.
slingshot in the butt. Yeah.
After they
Oh,
show that
yeah,
butt
yeah,
shot
yeah.
for literally 2 straight minutes. Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, oh yeah, these old 80s movies, we're gonna see a lot of weird like nudity.
They're just horny. Yeah.
They drop the R word, and it's like they drop the R word in a way that like it was okay to use that, not even as calling somebody the R word, but like it was used clinically still.
Yeah, and that's how they use it. So you can't really fault them.
I was shocked when I heard that. My mouth dropped a little bit.
Well, I
Same.
mean, that's what the word they used back then. It was 1981. It was a different time.
It was a different time,
40
but also
years
it was
ago.
it was before a different time. It was a different time where they still used that word in a clinical way.
Yeah.
Like
It was
people
the
with
medical definition.
people with mental issues, they would just call them all the R word. Like
No, they would call them mentally retarded. They wouldn't call them the R word.
call them the R slur.
I think we're gonna cancel.
Yeah, this is the R word hospital.
It
Bring
says
them all
that-
in.
No, but it says that on a sign. It
I
doesn't
got a
even
bus
say the
full of
word.
R words over here. Going to the R word hospital.
Imagine if you couldn't say that word, but that was still the clinical way to say it. So that's what
Oh,
people
it's
said.
so bad. Yeah.
It's funny. That's comedy. That's a funny joke. Anyway, the old man rolls up onto Hippie and Nippy. They're being goofy as fuck, and he's like, "If you go there, you're gonna die." Basically.
No, he said, "You're all doomed.
You're all doomed.
Doomed, I chose you."
And we're like, this guy's fucking.
And then he dies first, doesn't he?
Yeah.
You know what
He's
I
the
think
first
he
to
was
die.
doing? I think he was trying to make them think. So, like, he was like worrying about someone in the woods or whatever, but he was the one in the woods perving on them.
No.
I know
In the
that's what you
first
think,
movie-
but I don't think that's what it is.
No, in the first movie, he warned the kids not to go to Camp Crystal Lake because a terrible thing happened there. And then they go there and all die. And then he knows that because he lives there. And then he tried to warn this next group of kids. And do you know what he got for his trouble? Murdered.
Barbed wire around his
choked
throat.
out. Which is a great kill. I give
Yes.
that
It was
one.
okay.
I
It was okay.
give that the Jason kill seal of approval. I don't
Sick kill, bro. But the dark-haired guy, I'm kind of remiss to say this, but
The
he
hot
reminded
one?
me. The what? The hot one?
That's what
I
I
don't
said.
know.
He was like the hot
Everybody in
guy.
the movie is pretty attractive, so
That's
it's
true.
kind of like how they
Even the
cast
nerd.
these movies.
Even
The nerd,
character.
you mean the guy who looks exactly like the human from Ratatouille?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The whole time I was just like, you know what this movie needs? A rat on this guy's head.
He
The
should
whole
be the
time.
camp chef, and he should be controlled
Have
by
a
a
rat.
rat. And
I
nobody
think
talks
me and
about
Danny
it.
were watching it, and partway through I was like doing an impression of him because he also sounds like Yogi Bear weirdly. He's got like a weird Yogi Bear voice and looks like Ratatouille. But I
I'm gonna fuck this.
was like, you ever think that life would be easier if you were controlled by a rat?
I'm gonna fuck this bartender and not get murdered because he just
Yeah,
disappeared.
he just
I think he
disappeared.
likes
Yeah.
me.
So does the
He's
other.
got a fucking pile of beers in front of him.
So
Yeah,
does
him
the
and, like,
other
the rest
guy.
of the-
There's the.
There's a whole chunk of them that just disappear.
Yeah. Well, but really, like, it was just.
There's about 5. There's like the 2 full cars go, and only 1 car comes back.
Oh.
Like the truck is full of teenagers, and they just drive off, and then only those 2 come back, and then like nobody else comes back.
Because the other character, the one token person of color who is in their group, also doesn't come back and escapes.
Yeah, there's
Which
also
is
like
very
like I
progressive
said, like
for a horror
4
movie
other
in
people.
the 80s. The black dude makes it out. Doesn't even.
He also has 0 lines.
It's 0 lines in the movie.
Yeah.
But
He had like one line.
I don't remember him saying anything other than
Didn't he say something like
"Woo!" when he
Aldo?
jumps into the lake. He does a front flip and goes woo. That's his only line that I can recall.
so then the nerd, we meet the nerd when he gets like a guy to pull a prank on Hippie.
Pretty good prank.
By
Yeah.
towing his truck around the corner.
Yeah.
But Hippie was ready to go to blows. But it's funny because of how slow the truck was driving that he was able to just run next to it and be like, "Hey, asshole,
That's my car,
that's my
asshole."
car."
His giant
That's
nose.
what I think. Well, I think it was a good prank because it was in the moments felt serious enough of like, oh man, he's taking my truck. But then immediately, oh, it's just a joke. Like no
prank,
harm,
right?
no foul in any way whatsoever. Like I think it actually was a really good prank as far as pranks are concerned.
It's a good way to introduce the nerd character too, because a nerd who has nothing better to do. There's no video games. There's no internet. Just doing pranks, playing
Gotta
fucking
prank people for fun.
playing fucking video
With his
golf,
short
video
shorts.
video hockey, and video football and pong.
Yeah, do you want to play hockey or football?
It's like
one with the puck.
the one that, because it rhymes with fuck.
Yeah.
There was only one F-bomb in this whole movie, which surprised me, but there was lots of shits.
I think that you're allowed to have one fuck to keep a movie below a specific rating.
That is
So-
correct, but it can't be.
It can't be
an
like
adjective.
it can't be like fuck you. It has to be like, oh fuck.
I
Something
think you
along
can say
those
fuck
lines.
you. I think big has fuck you in it.
It's something about it can't be like an adjective or something or a verb or something. I can't. There is a rule about it though. That is definitely a rule.
Like you can't say let's fuck.
Yeah, that
something
might, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I thought fuck you was the one that you couldn't do.
Well, it might be someone saying I want to fuck you.
What if it's yippee-i-o, yippee-o ki-yay, motherfucker?
Yeah, that's a-okay.
That's
Was that
Yippee dippy a
Die
I-o,
Hard?
motherfucky.
motherfucky, sucky, fucky. Sorry, what, Kaylin?
Was Die Hard rated R?
I think so.
Yeah,
We'll talk about it on our Die Hard episode.
When we do Die
I can't
Hard
wait.
fucking 5. We should actually do a similar thing for action movies in like the spring or summer. That would be
Sure.
interesting. Do the top
Yeah.
big 4 like Terminator, Die Hard. Anyway.
Can I express a what's it called when something frustrates or like bothers you?
When Kalen puts his hand up and then doesn't get to the point. What's that called?
So I can't remember if it was before or after the flashback, but there's a kid playing in the puddles, and then his parents call him, and he walks off. And as soon as he walks off, what I assume is Jason walks in like immediately, like too soon. It was too quick. Like give it a couple beats before you walk in.
Oh yeah, like the guy, like Jason,
Like,
and the kid
the
would have been
kid's
this
gonna
far
see him
apart.
there.
You know what frustrated me more about that is that kid was not wearing rain boots. Those were like
Yeah, they were like
those
Vans.
were like regular ass sneakers.
Just
That kid's
splashing
feet
around in
are
Vans.
soaked. Yeah.
Yeah.
I did notice that whole scene gave me a real Halloween vibe. Felt like
Yeah.
Halloween. It also is very the way that they present Jason in this movie is very like they don't know the character yet, and
True.
there's parts where he's like like him and Phil are like struggling, and I'm like, oh, he's a mortal man in this movie. He's still
Yeah, I believe that he's just supposed to be that kid from the end of the first movie,
Yeah.
aged to be like 19 or whatever. Like
and
he's
then
just
but
like
he's a big
basically a
fucker
kid
if he's only 19. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And the other thing that I wanted to say there was I lost my train of thought, and I was hoping it would come back to me.
I just had an intrusive thought, but I'll let it die.
What was it? It was
It was just another use of the R word that was inappropriate.
Right. So the nerd, we get a scene where they're driving out to the camp. It's like camp like something lake. It's the same
Crystal Lake.
No,
It's next door. It's
next door to it.
Oh.
It's called something different. It just says it on a sign. It doesn't matter. But there's a log down. Oh, I remember what I wanted to say. You know it's Jason because whenever you hear and the first person, that's Jason.
It's key ma.
And
Come on.
if you hear key ma in the room, it's a lot like what Steve was saying last week with Chucky. That means Chucky's in the room. So they did the same. They do the same thing with the.
I like saying, but yes, as per last year's episode, it is kill, ma, or whatever.
Yeah.
Kill, key, ma.
The guy was whispering "kill ma" into a microphone and then just looped it.
And distorted.
Creepy. Yeah.
Spooky. They're coming
So
to get
spooky,
us
the cops are
for
coming.
saying
They
the
heard
R word
me
on the
use
internet.
they heard me use the R word too many times. I'm going to jail.
But yeah, so basically we get the exposition dump. If you don't know the story from the first 10 minutes, fucking the nerd is like, this.
Let me
this
recap
lake,
it
and
again.
There's some buildings out here, and it's unclear what really happened. But the girl, she's in a mental institution, and she's in a retail.
Jeez.
Rhetorical.
I gotta say though, like I was a camp counselor for a long time in my life, and the moments like where before the children arrive, where it's just the counselors, it is weird and horny, and it's pretty much like the movies.
Oh, I believe it.
Depict a lot of the time.
They're probably supposed to be like 17 and 18, like 17 to 19 is probably their age range here. So they're all trying to bang each other.
Hormones.
Yeah.
Yep.
They're all in a weird, scary place. I thought that it was funny that they get out of the truck. Oh wait, no, the girl finds the sign because this is what I thought was dumb. They're spooked. She's like, these woods are spooky, and then she beelines it into the woods. Luckily, nothing happens to her because Jason's on the other side of the street watching them. But like, that wouldn't be my first thought if I thought, because the whole movie, when they see the woods, they have a really weird vibe. I think that it's because there's a lot of daytime scenes, and it kind of always looks like sun setting. I don't know if you've ever been lost in the woods or like in the woods at sunset. It's just got a weird kind of vibe.
There's a strange darkness to it where it's like you can still see everything, but it's everything slowly getting closer to you in the sense of your range, your visual range.
Yeah.
Even after working at the same camp for 5 years, like you're familiar with the territory. It would be very difficult for you to get lost. When you're walking through there at night by yourself, you're scared. There's no other word for it. You're scared. And even if you have a flashlight, you point it into the woods, a deep thicket of trees, the light is just eaten by it. And it's frightening. It's scary, man. You don't know what's in there. And like the last thing, I used to never point my flashlight into the woods because I was scared that I would see something. I was like, don't put it in there. I just want to go and know where my path is. And if I would put it off to the side, I would instantly have a heart attack, even if there was nothing. So it's scary.
I remember that from when I was a child. I lived in the woods. We lived in a place called Alderwood Acres, which sounds like that's where Camp Crystal Lake is. It's in Alderwood Acres.
Yeah, that's a real horror movie sounding location for sure.
Yeah, and it was like a subdivision about a half hour out of Halifax, which is a small city, you know. And in the 90s, it was even smaller, you know. And I just remember like watching I've talked about this on the show before, I'm sure, but watching like In Search of Bigfoot or In Search of Aliens, and then like looking out my window and all I could see was like one light, like one power line's light, and that's it. If you go outside, it's the same thing. You could shine your flashlight into the woods, and if you're too scared to do it because if you see anything, that's game over. Because even if it's not Sasquatch or aliens or a ghost,
even if you saw a person
or a person, it's probably some shit that can kill you, like a lynx or a fucking cougar or something, or like a black bear. If you go even deeper into the woods.
Black bears don't hurt people. Brown bears do.
They're the nice ones.
Yeah.
They eat berries and shit.
Well, they'll still fuck
and
your
honey.
Life apart if they get spooked and want to attack your face off.
That's true.
Because everywhere we go camping has black bears, and I've never seen one. Like, I've gone camping the last 8 years in a row, and it's every year it's like, you got to be careful.
You got to red panda them. You got to go like this.
No, well, yeah, you do that, but you also make noise more so.
Just scream at them like you're crazy. Yeah. Punch them in the nose and they'll run away.
They'll be like, "Ooh, that's some gross meat. That meat's gone bad."
Yeah, bears are very fast too. They're frightening.
Yeah, always serpentine or play dead. Actually, don't.
You know who's faster? Jason.
Yeah,
as shown by this horrible foot race that takes way too long and goes on for so long. And
well,
we get it. He's deep in the woods. Fuck.
He doesn't have his like teleporting powers yet in this one, really.
No, so he's literally chased by a cop.
Yeah,
like for so long.
Yeah,
and it's frustrating. So this is after those two kids go into the woods and find the dead dog, right? And the cop has like some words with the camp counselor or the head counselor, and he's disappointed that they're not disciplining them more. And he's like, I don't want to have to clean up a mess again because last year or a couple years ago that shit happened and it's bad. And then he sees Jason on the side of the road, just like, like runs into the woods.
Oh man, when he like springs into he has like a little like jump into the woods.
Yeah, and those violins are just and
it was a spooky score, I will say that.
The Jason score is always good, man. It's pretty solid from the beginning to even the one in 2013.
Even the one in space?
I don't actually. I've only seen that one once.
I actually just bought it the other day.
I'm excited. I'm excited to rewatch. I read the synopsis of it.
From now.
Yeah, in 10 years from now, in 8 years from now, actually.
Yeah, we should just do a watch party again, like we did with See No Evil, and just watch it because it's goofy as fuck. Like
watch it over Zoom. That'd be cool.
Yeah, we'll just all watch it, and then we don't have to play it on the Zoom call. We can just press play individually. 3, 2, 1, go sort of thing.
No, but what I would say we do is watch it in Zoom, right? And if I put it on the internet, I can just put a block over that spot.
Well, I gotta say, playing things on your screen is not the greatest. I've tried to do it before for watch parties with my friends, and we end up just all watching it on our individual device.
Because I remember we did it for the Bill and Ted movie during pandemic.
Yeah, I mean, it can work, but it can get a little choppy sometimes.
Okay, cool.
But anyway, so he chases Jason to his spooky cabin made of like discarded doors and wardrobes and shit, and they find a real nasty toilet, and I'm like, oh my god, they really needed to show that he's human, all right, by showing a really gross toilet. Jason takes shit. And it's also like, there's plumbing out here. Wow. think he just have a thunder box or something. But he then finds the room which we're not revealed, which is this room here behind me, but we don't see that until the end. This shot confused the fuck out of me, but I was also kind of pissed off at how long the chase was and boring. Like, it wasn't visually interesting. It just kept showing close-ups of feet. And
with no payoff. Yeah.
And
it's like, oh, dark jeans, light jeans.
Well,
oh,
I think,
okay.
yeah, and I think that I realized that they were trying to give me visual cues as to whose legs were whose for the next scene coming up. But I also was like, it's so long. And I know that they were trying to accomplish, like, we need to show that he doesn't just live off the side of the road. We need to make it seem like they go really deep into the woods. But fuck, I don't care, man. Like, as long as you can't see the road, who gives a shit? But then there's a shot where it's the cop and he's like, he opens the door and then it cuts to some legs. And then there's legs coming up behind other legs. And in my brain, the way my brain processed that information was that he was walking up behind Jason. And then it cuts up to him and he's like, oh my God. Then Jason just like machetes him or whatever. And I just think it did not accomplish the goal that it was meant to do. And I think that running scene was also supposed to like establish in your mind, his pants are light blue and his pants are dark blue. But also just give him some brown pants, man. What the fuck?
Yeah,
give him some khakis.
He has the overalls in this one too, which was a weird, like, it's just what he's a weird hillbilly and that lives in a dilapidated. It's basically kind of a ripoff of Leatherface. It's what I kept thinking of. Kind of just that.
Yeah, they hadn't found Jason's identity yet. And
the jumpsuit with the fucking hockey mask is so iconic in my head that this even though I knew that this was the one where that he had that look, I was still. When that Friday the 13th game came out, I think that was the first time I registered that he had that look. I was like, what the fuck is that? And then I looked into it and I was like, oh, in the second movie, he had a bag head with one eye.
But it is the iconic look. And, like, he gets these big yellow gloves. Actually, I have the picture of it right here on my shirt. He gets these big old gloves. Oh, I'm disappearing. Why? Anyway, he gets these gloves, and they're, like, yellow. And it's so good. It's like Doctor Strange gloves. You're just like, and it's great because you see him grabbing things and you always know it's him. And they hang on to those gloves for a while. They lost them at some point, and I remember thinking, like, why? Why'd they get rid of his cool gloves? They just wanted to have monster hands or some shit.
I like the version of him from the NES game that is like purple and that they made an action figure out of. Yeah, and then with the teal mask, and then they actually incorporated that into the Friday the 13th game.
It was removed though. Fuck.
Why?
That stupid lawsuit. There was a lawsuit that was going on for like 20 years.
Because that's owned by Mattel or whatever, or LJN or some shit.
Like, that game got done dirty, man, because it's such a good game, and there were so many avenues they could have gone, and they had this huge update planned for it that was going to be completely free. They were going to add the Jason X ship and all that stuff. And the lawsuit ended, and it just completely destroyed the game. It's really sad because the game was. Was there what?
A Jason 9, or Friday the 13th 9.
Yes.
Okay.
It's not called that, but it's called Jason Goes to Hell. I think is that one.
No, that's like 7.
One. Okay. Yeah.
Is that 7? I can't remember, man. They start naming them after that, and I'm like, can you just make them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7? Like, why you gotta do this to me?
Yeah, the next one there's some spiritual shit that happens that makes him into a zombie. I know that, and then it starts going off the rails, and then gets real weird. But okay, so we skipped over that scene, but I do want to go back and cover some things. We get a scene of Ginny showing up.
Jason Goes to Hell is the 9th one.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
And then they didn't make a movie for like a decade.
And then
they didn't make another one until Jason X, which is Jason 10.
But that was in like 2000 or something, right?
2001. And then Freddy vs. Jason came out in 2003.
And that's canonical to both series?
Yeah. I mean, pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
They do a little bit of.
But I remember it being it's a Nightmare on Elm Street movie that has Jason in it is how the movie
Freddy
felt.
versus Jason?
Yeah, they try to do as much as they can with Jason, but the story-wise, Jason is very simple. Like, it's like he's a monster who kills people, whereas Freddy has a little bit more of a complex background and
talks.
Identity, and he speaks.
Says words.
Yeah.
But the kills, I remember the kills in Freddy versus... I have seen Freddy versus Jason. It's one of the first horror movies that I was like... started to make me be like, oh, these movies have like a story. It's not just like an hour and a half of like elaborate murders. They've got there's a story that's like happening, and then murders just happen. And I remember the murders being hilariously violent but not gory because it was for a broader audience. And I remember being like, oh, I should probably start trying to watch more horror.
There's a good part in Freddy vs. Jason where I can't remember her name, but one of the Destiny's Child people is in it, and he cuts her nose. He cuts her nose off. Then he goes, "Got your nose!" As he like pops out of a magazine. It's great.
I like when Jason folds somebody backwards in a cot.
Yeah,
they're laying on a cot on their stomach, and he folds them backwards. And I think he does the classic: puts somebody in a fucking sleeping bag and just bashes them against the tree.
No, that happens in Jason X.
That happens. Oh, really?
Yeah. I believe that kill is. That's not from the first one, is it? No. Actually, it is. I think it is from the first one.
It reminds me of the first one.
I think it's in multiple movies because it's a very.
Yeah, no, I mean that's they do that specifically because they put him onto like a holodeck, basically, Jason, and they put these hologram women.
Oh,
like, they're like
think
two women. They're like, we're having unprotected sex.
Yeah. I think
and then it just like cuts away, and then it cuts back from this like comical long shot of him just like. Like hitting the sleeping bag against the tree, and you can hear the woman like
That's amazing.
Oh man!
So this movie has a thing that I think that the Jason or the Friday the 13th game uses, and we get a shot at the beginning of Ginny driving up in that Beetle that's like old and like broken down, and then we get a shot of her like trying to start it and it won't start, and I said out loud, sitting in my living room by myself, that's definitely happening at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
Of course, in the game you have to like get parts to like fix the things, but I think that's how they kind of do that in a video game universe.
As well, while we were watching it, because me and Danny play the game quite often, and she tries to start the car. I'm like, no, you only have the keys. You need to find the battery and the gas.
The battery and the gas can. Yeah. So that's a classic trope, and I was like, you don't really need a Chekhov's gun a trope like that, but it was 1981, so maybe you did.
The exhaust to the face was pretty funny.
He goes and tries to fix it and fucking gets blasted.
Yeah. I also thought it would have been funny if like Jason was behind the car and it happened to him as well. All over the
bag. Let's see here. The main guy tells the story about Jason seeing his mom get beheaded, and he will kill again. It's been 5 years. That's where we find out that. Naturally, the kids are going to just go looking for Camp Crystal Lake, because if I was a kid... See, I walked under a ladder today. And I was walking up to the ladder, and I was like, am I going to go around the ladder? I'm going to walk under the ladder. And I was like, I don't fucking believe in anything. So I just walked under the ladder. But then somebody was coming towards me, and I looked back to see. And they did go under the ladder. But the story would have...
I mean, I love those like bad luck things, because if you really examine them not even closely, they're just all dangerous things to do. Like opening an umbrella inside is dangerous because you might like poke somebody in the eye when you open it. Putting shoes on a table is considered bad luck in some cultures, and I'm just like, no, moms made that up because they don't want dirty shoes on the table.
That's like it's bad luck if you do April Fools after lunchtime. That's because by lunchtime the teachers at schools are done with pranks. Like we have to make up something so we don't just pranking doesn't just happen until we all go insane.
Yeah. Broken mirror, dangerous.
Just dangerous.
Glass is dangerous.
But also mirrors are like. I see where that comes from. Mirrors are like a thing in multiple cultures that are like, special.
No, I know. But I'm saying to me, I'm like, but it's also dangerous.
The latter one makes no sense to me. I think it's
because someone could be up there and drop something on you.
Yeah, but like if you walk under the ladder, that's bad luck. Friday the 13th is a stupid one too.
Yeah, because one time a guy walked under a ladder while somebody was like using a sledgehammer to hit something, and he dropped it and it hit him on the head and killed him.
Having a sledgehammer on a ladder is not OSHA approved.
Okay? Sorry, I meant a normal hammer, a ballpoint hammer or whatever.
I think it's bad. I think if you climb a ladder with a sledgehammer, that's bad luck.
That's true. I've done it.
For everyone,
and I broke my rib that day.
Oh shit!
Bad luck.
Did you land on the hammer?
I didn't fall off of the ladder. I broke my rib in a completely different circumstance.
Wow.
Did you hammer yourself with the hammer?
No, I didn't. Nothing had to do with the ladder or the hammer. I broke my rib completely separately of anything. But
were you laughing so hard from not having anything bad happen with the ladder?
Okay, I'll tell you how I broke my rib because it seems like you're
smoking
guessing
a cigar
until
laughing
I tell you.
about how you did this bad luck thing.
No, I was trying to use a lock or a bolt cutter on a padlock that was too thick for that caliber of cutter. and I was trying my arms, couldn't get it, so I wedged it under my arm, and I was
Oh.
putting my body weight into it, and I pushed so hard that I just cracked my rib.
You're strong.
I was very strong at that point. Yes, I was so
Wow.
strong that I broke my own bones.
It's weird
You
that
need
your
more
body.
milk.
You know how you like can't bite your own tongue off, or you can't like bite your own skin. Like you can, but like you know how like it's weird that your body didn't let you not push it that hard.
Yeah.
Yes, I got a stupid body.
I got a stupid body.
So stupid.
So then we get the scene where they're sitting around the camp. This is them sitting around the campfire that I just explained, and then the nerd shows up in. I guess like a caveman attire with a
Yeah, it's a really weird costume, but hat off to the movie for not doing something problematic, I guess.
Yeah. And he has a spear, and they Chekhov's gun that spear, which I didn't expect, and they didn't.
I did because I have played the game.
Oh, there's a spear
Yeah.
in it.
There's a spear. One of the loading screens in the game is two people in a bed with the spear through them,
Oh,
which is a
nice.
shot that was in this movie that they removed because it pushed the rating up too high, so they had to
That
do a
whole
reshoot with the
sequence-
bed blood.
That whole sequence, we'll get to it, but just to talk about it right now, since we're talking about it, like it had a lot of build up and no payoff. It was just like him skulking, him clearly holding the spear, them just finishing having sex, which Jason canonically hates. He hates when people come.
Because he's an incel, guys.
He's
He's
an
never
That's
had
because
sex.
he died
Yeah.
because of people fucking.
Well, that's how they.
And
in
he doesn't
Freddy
understand how
versus
good it
Jason,
feels.
when they re-show how what happened. That scene is like they're all banging.
Yeah,
And it's like
like on the porch of
Yeah.
the cabin in front of all the
and
kids.
he's like drowning and, being
And
like,
he's drowning,
"Hello, can
yeah.
you please come and help
And
me,
all the
please?"
kids are making fun of him, like,
Yeah,
you
like,
stupid
"Oh,
idiot.
nerd."
Yeah.
Banging. But that's just what I think. That's what the Jason's mom thought happened. I think that Jason's death was
just-
because of negligence, but not the grossest form of negligence.
Yeah.
It's all a misunderstanding.
She was being hyperbolic. She was blaming the wrong people.
Yeah.
She was
Should've
there
blamed
too. She was the
herself.
cook.
Yeah.
I liked how Ginny tried to give a reason though behind her actions. I thought that was like wholesome.
At what
Yeah,
point?
Like
that's how you
how-
knew she was going to survive,
Oh, yeah.
because she was nice. She was empathetic. I wrote it down somewhere. Where did I write it? Oh, I just wrote blonde empathy equals she will live. That's my note.
So this first night, the teens all start playing grab ass. Basically, at this point, they're all flirting and dancing and drinking and smoking pot.
And the hottest person is the guy in the wheelchair, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
He looked
He's
like
the hottest out of everybody.
he looks like the character that plays Superman.
I thought he looked like Billy Crudup, like the young Billy Crudup,
Yeah.
the guy who plays Dr. Manhattan in the Watchmen
Okay,
movie.
yeah, but yeah, I saw, since I'm watching Titans right now, he looks like the guy that plays Superboy,
Oh right, yeah.
who's also a very handsome man. But yeah, we get the first bits of Jason's like stalking around, looking in the windows and stuff. Paul goes to the girls' cabin. They start doing it.
They start doing it.
Naturally,
And then the guy who looks like the ultimate gentleman starts being a perv.
Yep,
Right?
yep. And it's an 80s movie, so we see a bra, so murders are incoming. But that first night, everybody makes it unscathed, and I kind of see what Kaylin's saying, because this is around the time when we see the old man also skulking around and spying.
He smiles a little bit.
Yeah, Kalen loves his ghost theory of this man's a horny old
He's
man.
a
He's
horny
just
old
like,
pervert.
"Ah, you
He's
kid
like,
fuck.
You're doomed.
You're
but I'm gonna
doomed, I
jerk
tells
off
you. Now
first."
take your top off. Yeah. I think he was just a
Where did that come
concerned
from?
citizen who happened to catch some skin and was like, "Ah."
Yeah, but Jason does murder the old man in this moment, and I made a note that all the kids made it through the night. The old man is now dead. 2 movies, a movie and a half. No more old man.
Yeah.
Now the next people that come to Camp Crystal Lake are not going to have any sort of soothsayer saying sooth.
Yeah, they'll just be all legends. I mean, there's too many warnings already. We don't need an old man being like, "Wah, run for the hills."
I think if I heard about a grisly murder of multiple people, I would just avoid that place because no good could come of going there.
Yeah, I was like, when I was watching it, I was talking to Tenny, and I was like, We're probably these two, right? The ones that go wandering in the woods alone. That's probably us. We would hear about the abandoned camp and we would want to go check it out.
That's me, absolutely. I'd be like, I got to see this camp.
Camp Blood, you say? All right, let's go check it out.
That's something I forgot to mention. Throughout the movie, they keep calling it Camp Blood, and I fucking love that. That's a lot more memorable to me now. I mean, Camp Crystal Lake has been a constant in my life for my whole life because this series is older than I am.
Like Hammered.
Yeah, but Camp Blood, I don't know how I've never heard them refer to it as that before. Do they only do it in this movie?
I think so, but they might drop it a couple other times. But like the movies kind of they're
almost their own thing, sort of.
Yeah, but they also kind of move away from the camp for a little while and they start going elsewhere.
Like Manhattan.
Yeah, I think the fifth one is like a huge time jump. Like Tommy Jarvis is a kid in the fourth one, and then in the fifth one, it's like a big time jump where he's now an adult and he's like a foster kid who's going to all these different foster homes and stuff, and he's obsessed with Jason still, even though he's like, Jason's gonna come back, I know it. And then there's one where he digs Jason up and stabs him with a weather vane for some reason, and
then the weather
struck
vane
by lightning,
gets struck by lightning,
and
then he brings him back to life by accident.
And then Corey Feldman saves the day.
Don't they nuke him?
He only plays him as a kid. He doesn't play him as an adult.
Is Jason Goes to Hell the one where they fucking nuke him from space at the end?
I think that's
they blow him up, yeah, and then they just have his head or his brain or something, yeah. And the doctor like eats a piece of him or something weird. I can't remember. They get so strange.
Yeah,
they get so strange.
It's because I think they started to try to be extra gritty, like the Hellraiser series. They wanted to just be visually gross, like body horror, weird, like just what are gross, like macabre ideas we can just throw at the Jason brand. Because right now, these first two movies, if I had known that they were just kind of like campy, like a bunch of camp counselors get murdered in weird ways, I probably would have been able to handle these movies way earlier. Like in my early 20s, I probably could have just gone through this. It's when you see
I think when I saw I think I started getting into these movies right around when Freddy versus Jason came out. I saw Freddy versus Jason was coming out. They had been doing the movie marathons of Jason and Freddy movies throughout that month, so I started watching them on TV. And then I saw Freddy vs. Jason and I was like, this is great. This is amazing. These are so fun.
Yeah, really distracting.
Yeah. So we are, where are we at here? We're still kind of in the first evening, but we get to that second day and we see a chainsaw. And I wrote down chainsaw question mark. What?
Apparently Jason is scared of chainsaws.
Yeah, because of this movie, he gets hit by one.
He gets grazed.
Oh, I wasn't expecting someone to attack me.
And
exactly.
She immediately doesn't know how to use a chainsaw because she just like lets go of the grip and then it just.
But she's the one using it before. She knows how to use it. We see her cutting wood with it. She's the one that cuts all the wood.
Right.
And it's stored in her cabin. I believe she has it in like a closet or whatever. And comes back later. I wrote down and underlined chainsaw question mark, and I was like, I wonder if this is an homage to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And then when the chainsaw comes back, I wrote down again chainsaw exclamation point.
I'm back at the dog runs into the woods and runs right up to Jason. And
then we see a dead dog later that you think is that dog, and it's not. And I'm like, what's the point of this? But he still killed a dog.
We get a montage of them having lunch, and then a montage of them all swimming, and just some random scenes.
I have a question.
That's when the Hippie and Dippy go to Camp Crystal Lake, and I just wrote, why would you want to go there? And that's when they find the dog ripped to shreds, and you think that it's Muffin. Go ahead, Galen.
I think we were talking about a part when the head counselor guy went to go say what's up to the blonde chick or whatever, right? And I believe it was the blonde chick. She changed from black panties to brown panties.
That's later.
Oh, okay.
It's not Ginny. That's I think her name's Vicky, and she's trying to get with the wheelchair guy.
Oh yes, you are right.
And she sprays perfume literally everywhere.
Yeah, me and Danny both went, ew.
Yeah.
She did that. We're like, that seems like it would be unsanitary to do that.
Those
you might get some sort of weird infection.
Sexier, though. It also looked like she shit herself.
It also reminds, when she's running through the door and her but it also reminds me of that meme on TikTok that's like, why would you put perfume on your ankles? That was
because of sex.
Yeah, they had the same energy as that.
Because of sex.
So the police officer shows up and he finds them at Camp Crystal Lake. He threatens them, says they're too close to the lake, to the Camp Crystal Lake. And then that's when we get the scene with that you were talking about earlier, where he follows them through the woods into a filthy, dilapidated shack. And he goes in for some reason. Why? You're the sheriff of a small town. Stay away from the horrible shack that's filled with nightmares.
Just trying to catch Jason.
And he gets a hammer to the brain for his trouble.
Oh, was it a hammer? Okay.
Yeah.
Couldn't remember how he got.
So this is sort of the last sequence that starts here. The camp.
Never get to the Home Alone.
I didn't think I was like, there's only a half hour left in this movie. How's that possible? It went by so fast, but also Jason had killed 2 people at this point in pretty tame ways. But they all decide to go to town. Phil's like, one more night before the kids come. Let's go,
wasted.
Let's get messed up. So they go to town. The remaining counselors play even more grab ass, and they're all kind of pairing off now to fuck. And I wrote, the remaining counselors have to deal with a nightmare man. That's when the hot girl goes skinny dipping alone at night, because of course she does. And
her hair was already wet before she got in the water.
That's because they probably shot that scene like 30 times before they got her.
I know, but still, it drove me insane.
I thought about that immediately. I'm like, if she's going into the water right now, why is her hair already wet?
Because everybody else was staring at her naked body. No one noticed her hair. That's what their reasoning was.
Then I wrote, all the kids are horny now because they're all just paired off playing grab ass. I wrote his name's Scott. I wrote Scott as a hazard to women because he steals her clothes. Then she gets out of the water nude and she's like, "What are you doing?" And he just gives most of the clothes back.
Gives them back. Yeah.
I was happy that she called him a pervert.
Yeah. She's like, "You pervert," and he's like, whatever. And then there's like a rope on the ground that he steps in and gets like put upside down. And then she goes to get a knife and he immediately gets murdered. Immediately, like Jason, and I was like, comes out and goes.
She goes to get a pocket knife out of a backpack. Like, go to the kitchen of the giant cabin you're right next to. I know the layout of this lake. I've played the video game. I know where that house is. It's closer than the cabins.
Neither of these people are smart, though.
No,
they're the dummies, the dumb hot people who are like functionally dumb and also so hot that he's an incel pervert. Which that sentence doesn't make any sense, but. I just like that I wrote Scott as a hazard to women. Her name's Terry. Murdered by machete. She finds him murdered. She comes back. They talk about the absurdity of Jason at the bar, I believe.
Yeah, that's also where the empathy statement comes from.
Yeah, the bar. And then she says he could be a frightened R-word or a man who just wants his mom back. And I almost spit my drink out when I heard her say frightened R-word. Her word's not mine. I also made sure to write in my notes. Jason only knows his mom and never went to school, so I guess going to the lake was his only connection to people. And he doesn't know what death is. So he's killing... And we see it later where like what he's seeing is like his mom or murder. Somebody can pretend to be his mom, and he's very easily confused when she puts the sweater on later. As soon as that's broken, he sees murder. He sees, I got to murder again. And Jason's a legend around these parts. Scooter's getting hit on hard by Vicky. She wants to get stoned on marijuana. And then, oh my God, this line was...
Were you calling him Scooter?
Yeah, his name was Scooter.
Who, Wheels?
His name was Mark.
Oh,
his name is Mark.
They called him Scooter earlier in the movie.
It's because he's in a wheelchair. That's why they're calling him Scooter. It's kind of a mean diss.
It is a mean diss, but you know what's an even meaner diss? This next line. She offers him she goes, "You want a toke?" And he goes, "I'm training." And she goes, "For what?"
Oh my
and he
god!
looks down like, "Oh yeah."
Forgot. There's also a part earlier where they're running. All of them are running, and he's at the end of where they're running to or whatever, and he's yelling at them like, "Come on, go faster!" I'm like, this guy's being really rude for someone who can't walk. He's like yelling at these people running.
I don't think this movie's like a hard horror comedy like Tucker and Dale versus Pure Evil kind of thing, but there's a lot of there's a lot of humor in this movie. Like there's a thread in this movie in the first act where they tell like a bunch of just like,
stupid
what do
jokes.
you call a blah blah blah? Oh, blah blah. You know, they tell a lot of those kind of jokes. What was Mozart's best score, or what? I don't remember that one.
All of those jokes immediately left my brain because I was like, this is called lazy writing. They just got out of a shitty joke book or got people to tell jokes in the writer's room and wrote them in.
Those jokes were schoolyard jokes, probably from this movie. Like they probably stuck in as the top, because two of them I recognized. I can't remember them now, obviously, because they just left my brain immediately. But there were horror comedy elements.
But there are so few movies where people telling jokes sequentially where it's actually funny, because that's just shit that happens in real life. So putting it in a movie is reductive almost. Like, come up with a funny scenario that's beyond human comprehension, because that's what you have the ability to do. You're making up fantasy. Don't just have somebody sitting there telling jokes. It's not funny. You know,
my favorite.
The situation should be funny, not the story they're telling. What?
At the barbecue, when the hot dogs are raised, like, come and get them. And then the guy's like, "I'm right here."
That's funny. See, like that's funny. Whereas somebody being like, then the bear wiped his ass with the rabbit or whatever. Like that's and then just cut to them laughing, and you're just like, oh god. So
a bear and a rabbit are talking, and the bear asks the rabbit, "Can you clean your fur?" Was that what it was?
I don't. Again, I just remember
the bear takes his shit and wipes his ass with the rabbit. Yeah. Just Anyway, the hippies go to bang. I wonder if they're gonna get brutally murdered. And guess what? Mark gets a machete to the face in the next little bit. He's coming to he's going over to Vicky's place to get his D-est. She asks him. He's like, She's like, "Does everything still work?" And he's like, "I do okay." She's like, "No, I mean your penis. Does it work? Does it function?" She didn't say that, but that's how ham-fisted that fucking moment was.
Yeah.
Does your penis work? Can I ride your penis?
Yeah, she was just trying to check it off the bucket list.
Or like the fuck it list.
Oh, so he's on his way to get some just dirty, and takes a machete to the face, which was shocking.
Yeah, that is the most shocking moment, I think, in the movie, is that kill. And then
like,
immediately cut to him rolling down the stairs, which is also shocking.
That's comedy. I think that was supposed to be like a kind of a joke.
It was kind of scary looking, though, man. Backwards? If it was forwards, it would be funnier, but backwards.
Dead at that point, though, right?
I know, but like, it just like body flailing around would be funny, but just the back of the head jittering with the hair going everywhere was quite frightening.
It's quite frightening.
Mm-hmm.
The hippies finish banging. Jason's on the prowl, and he gets the spear from before. Then Vicky finds the hippies murdered, and so they just skip over Jason murdering these people.
Well, like I said, that was in the movie. They show the thing go in, but they don't show a long shot of both of them impaled. They don't show them finding them impaled, and it was because it was too graphic. I guess they had to get rid of it. Which is unfortunate, because I've seen that, like I said, that concept piece in the Jason video game. It's cool. Like it's disgusting, but it's also like, oh.
But I do like this next bit. Vicky's murder has a cool thing where the camera follows the knife up to her, and she's just doing the scream queen, like and then you see the knife go down, and then blood comes out of her mouth and she dies. I did like that. And it's not as good as like seeing two people get like skewered in a bed, because it's weird. The first movie has like the opposite of that, where Kevin Bacon, a knife comes up from under the bed through his stomach, which was really good.
Yeah,
it's an arrow through the throat.
Or an arrow through the throat, whatever. I always think it's a knife through the stomach for some reason. My bad. It's an arrow through the throat, and it's
I'm just
extremely
a
graphic.
twisted monster who remembers all the kills perfectly.
Well, I'll never forget.
Oh, wait,
it.
you didn't watch all of the Friday the 13th movies? Right, like recently?
No.
Me? No.
No.
I did not. I haven't watched all of them in a row in a long time, many years. It's a lot, and they start to get a little bit dusty after you watch like 4 of them. You're like, okay, I get it. Jason Takes Manhattan sucks, man. The entire movie is on a boat, and then they finally get to Manhattan for like the last 15 minutes.
Yeah. And that's I think everybody, I want to see Jason walking down the street just killing randoms. And when I heard that it all takes place on a boat, I was like, oh man, a cruise ship. Cruise ships look the same down every hallway.
I like the way Jason's brought back to life in that one, but that's like the only kind of visually cool thing about it. Everything else is really claustrophobic, but not in a scary way. It's just kind of like
boring.
They didn't have space to shoot. Yeah.
So the counselors get back. They find the bloody bed with no bodies. Paul and Jason just have a dust up. It seems Paul, not Phil. They have just kind of like they don't even fight. They fight the same battle that basically the girl and Mrs. Voorhees have. And that's when I realized that Jason is just a human, basically, at this point. And then we get like Ginny trying to escape because Paul gets knocked out. She's trying to escape. We get a really good jump scare that isn't too like, it's obvious, but it was just really well done, where the arm comes through the window and like grabs at her but misses. She goes back out the door. She goes into another room. She's trying to decide if she wants to run for the window or keep the door held shut. She eventually decides to go for the window, but the door opens. She opens a closet. The fucking old man falls out onto her. She manages to get out of there. She gets a knife. But now Jason's running around with a pitchfork and all of this. So he's just like stabbing through doors and fucking... she makes it out to the car. She gets in the car. She's trying to... What we were talking about earlier, trying to turn the car on. You hear Jason like lay off for a second, and then you hear like somebody's jumping up onto the trunk, and then you hear kind of like foof, foof, foof. So he's obviously up on the roof of this Beetle. We forgot to mention earlier in the podcast that the Beetle actually has a convertible top, so the fucking pitchfork just comes straight down through with no fight back from the roof. She's losing her mind. She gets out and runs. And he falls off, and then there's this weird scene where he's laying behind, like he falls down, he's laying behind, he's getting back up, but as she's running around the front of the car and running up the hill, he's still just laying on the ground.
You got to give them the movie a minute to breathe, right? Like you can't really just have him immediately go after her, because then you don't get the second car.
I thought it was weird. I thought it was weird that they shot him trying to get up. And then,
they could have just not shown him, and like he could have been gone for a second or something.
But yeah, you're right. She runs up the hill. Then they do this really dumb moment where he runs up after her, and she's just hiding in a bush, like shaking the bush because she's freaking out. He just walks. He's about to walk by her. She fucking kicks him in the dick. Like, just a straight up dick kick. And I'm sure that there's a callback to that in other movies, because later
that's what they train everyone to do. Always aim for the dick.
But I assume there's lots of Jason movies where he gets kicked in the dick and he just goes,
I don't have a dick.
I am a zombie man with no other appendages other than murder arms.
The fish ate my balls.
He kind of remind me of what's his name, Crunk or Chunk from the Goonies.
Who does?
Another problematic character.
Yeah, fat phobic.
Chunk is the fat kid. You're thinking of the big monster man in the basement, right?
Kronk? Yeah. No, that's...
I don't think his name is Kronk. I don't remember what his name is.
No, his name is... he does have a name that's iconic. Fuck, why can't I remember it?
Hey, you guys.
Ugh.
Hey, Google, what's the freak's name from Goonies?
Good Lord.
Oh, she doesn't have any information.
He's just a Goonie. Here, I'll figure it out.
Oh, right quick. There's a shot where they show Jason's hand, and he's got a bruise on his thumb.
Yeah.
I think it was a real bruise.
Yeah,
I think it was a real bruise.
His name is Sloth, guys.
Yeah, Sloth. Fuck.
Yes. Shame on me.
The Goonies is a movie that didn't really age that well. There's a lot of not so great stuff in that movie.
Do the fat kid dance, you fat kid. Basically.
It's got a sprinkle of racism, some fat phobia.
Definitely,
they use the R word a lot.
They use the
There's
R
a
word
lot
a bunch.
of homophobia in there.
Probably the F slurs in that movie. But they were just kids. It was a different time. Learn through all of Stand By Me without using.
Doesn't mean we can't respond to it.
Yeah.
Spielberg.
Ginny makes it into another cabin after trying another car, but she can't get in. She runs under a bed, and I thought this was a little bit. The assumption here when she sees the rat is that because she's a girl, it adds extra tension, and I thought that was a little bit sexist, right? And I think it was played in a sexist way, even though she doesn't react or anything. But I think the point of the rat. What?
She peed.
Does she pee? I didn't catch that.
Yeah. That was the liquid seeping out of the like at the end of the bed.
How did I miss
that? She peed
that?
because she was scared.
That's crazy. Well, there you go.
Yeah. She pissed herself.
I did not know it was her piss herself.
There's a big puddle of yellow that comes out from under the bed. It's really gross.
Weird.
It was weird though. What's even weirder is that it came out of like her pant leg when she was lying down. I'm like, I don't know if that's how gravity works.
But this is where Ginny gets her chainsaw, and she somehow misses Jason completely, just like grazes him, and then the chainsaw stops working. So she fucking smashes him with a wooden chair.
I thought of you at that moment. I thought of you, and I thought of wrestling. I was like, bam, chair to the back.
Yeah. It was highly effective because he was knocked out for a minute. That's
why Jason hates chairs.
Yeah.
Because of this movie.
You know, Jason canonically hates chairs and chainsaws.
You never see him sitting.
Nope. He's always
That's
walking.
true.
This guy hates chairs.
I thought that when he walked into that room, I thought he was going to sit on the bed. I thought it was going to be one of those and not the fucking rat and piss herself thing.
Yeah, that's kind of weird. I don't think they needed the piss. I don't know what that accomplished other than us going, ugh.
That's how he knew she was there.
But they could have done something else. They have to put a big pee puddle. What I'm saying is that it was gross. I don't need pee.
They're
trying to gross you out. That's the whole point.
She manages to make it over there. She runs to the shack. She finds the shack. She runs into the woods, finds the shack. Jason immediately goes to the shack. And then we get the scene where she pretends to be the mom. She like puts the gross fucking sweater with like the blood.
You didn't like that sweater? I thought that was a dope sweater.
No, the sweater is great. It's an old fisherman's
corpse
sweater.
Would you take a sweater that had a corpse head in its neck hole?
It's also splattered all the time. What are you talking about?
It's splattered with the blood from when she died like 5 years ago. That room, the smell in that room, I can't. All the bodies and the fucking just viscera
just hanging out.
Yeah.
I thought also that final scene, the eyes were going to open because Thriller.
So did I.
I was waiting for it
because it looked like they were gonna. Like I was like, is that a real person's face? Those look like real eyelids. Maybe they did.
Yeah,
do
exactly.
It. Maybe they had a shot where the eyes open and people are like, "That's dumb," so they got rid of it.
Yeah.
I was at odds when that happened because I was like, oh man, they're gonna show it like its eyes open or whatever, and then it didn't happen, and part of me was disappointed, but then part of me was also like, ooh, they subverted my expectations or whatever. Damn it, $1 in the car.
Yeah, that's fine. $1 in the car.
We've gone from jar to car because you've done it so many times you can't fit anymore in the jar.
You're gonna put the $1 in the car. Actually, you've been good, Kayla. You haven't done that many ums. But that aside.
Oh, that's the ums.
I'm allowed to because I mostly don't So what happens is Paul shows up, he's not dead, and they again have like a grappling match. He smashes Jason, or Jason smashes Paul against the wall. There's like boards coming down. They get hit by like those 2x4s that were the ceiling, and I was like, did that fucking suck to get hit by those giant boards? Because they looked like real wood. I don't know if it was just like styrofoam that looked like real wood or what, but it looked like that hurt. And then they eventually managed to fucking machete him. Ginny manages to machete Jason. Jason goes down.
Great hair, by the way. Gotta mention, great hair.
Who?
Jason, he has a luscious lock. He has luscious locks of hair.
Oh yeah,
on half of his head, just like all scraggling down over his weird face.
They take the mask off. You don't see it. I was like, really? They're not gonna show him? Anyway,
they do.
There's
they
a
show
reason.
him.
I know, but there's a reason why they don't show him. It's because they leave. They think everything's fine. They hear a clattering at the door. Then we get our big happy ending. They make it back to a cabin. Sorry, did I say that? We get a moment where she's holding the pitchfork. He's got the hammer. He's got a hammer or the end of a shovel. They're ready to open the door and fucking give the remaining Jason one more go. But it's the dog, and the music changes to like happy ending music. It's like da da da. But then fucking smash through the window. Jason with the fucking machete in his arm, no mask on, fucking luscious locks, half his face is deformed, and he grabs her, and it's just a slow motion of him grabbing her and it being like rink, 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 and then it just cuts to the next morning, and she's being taken out on a stretcher, much like the end of the first movie kind of had the same kind of vibe, and it's like, did that happen? And she's like, where's Paul? Where's Paul? And then credits. Oh no, sorry. And then they flash back to the creepy cabin. Then they flash back to the mom's head, and it just holds on the mom's head for like 30 seconds. And I'm like,
and we all think the eyes are gonna open, and I'm pretty sure that was a real person's head in there with eyes closed because those eyelids look so real. Yeah. I guarantee you they filmed the eyes opening and they just decided to not do it because like that those eyelids were too.
Because where do they go from there?
Yeah, and then it cuts to credits, and did you ever know that you're my hero? Starts playing or something. I can't remember. The audio in this movie, audio design.
The music was just like dun 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 dun.
I know.
Dun,
I have an ongoing joke when I watch movies with Danny, where when the credits start, I sing a song that is completely inappropriate for the movie that we just watched. Like when we're watching like Toy Story 3, and then it'll end, and I'll go, oh.
Yeah, that's a good one. Also, that was a good ooh.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, so we're gonna be done a little early tonight because we can do our final thoughts. Like I said, there wasn't a whole lot to talk about in this movie. It's pretty much establish what happened in the first movie, establish the counselors,
and then kill them.
And then kill them all off, which they spend about 35 minutes doing. And the movie's only an hour and a half, hour and 25 minutes. So if you cut out that intro and the credits, it was literally like basically 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So it's basically an hour and 15 minutes. You need about 20 minutes of exposition, right? That's just the kids talking to each other about Jason.
Yeah.
And then the Home Alone of it, and that's just seeing the different murders. Some of them are good, some of them are whatever. But we'll go to our final thoughts now. So we started with Kaylin. So Kaylin, why don't you hit us with
your... Should we do favorite kills as well?
Yeah.
You got a segment? Your segment? Do your segment.
I think for slasher movies, it's appropriate to have a favorite kill, or like we give like a golden machete award or something to like a specific kill that we like.
I would like to. Most. My favorite kill is the machete to the face, and my honorable mention is actually the barbed wire to the throat, because I did really like. I liked that. I liked realizing it was barbed wire for no reason. Like, it didn't need to be barbed wire. It's just extra brutal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I agree. I think that the barbed wire was probably the beginnings of stepping in the right direction for the series, where they're like, maybe we should get more creative with not just like how people are dying, but what they're being killed with, and how crazy can we get with it. I believe the third movie has a pretty good corkscrew moment with Crispin Glover, where he's complaining about a corkscrew for so long, and then he gets a corkscrew through his hand or something, and then into his head. My favorite, I gotta say, the fucking pervert. I like that he just got like he was trapped. He was getting a taste of his own medicine. He was the prey in a predator-prey situation where the whole movie he was basically being a creepy predator, and he got laid into a trap, triggered it, and then he got his goddamn throat slit for it. He's like, that's one of those moments where you're like, this guy deserved this death, and I'm glad he died.
How did Terry die? Like actually die again?
That's the person who gets naked.
Yeah.
She goes back. She finds him dead.
And then Jason just kills her.
Yeah, I think he just
just stabs her, slits her throat.
Can't remember.
That's how forgettable she was compared to her butt.
With the girl from the first movie with the screwdriver to the head, because it, for me, like while I was watching it, came out of nowhere and it got me super pumped for the movie. And then fucking the title card, and like I was just like I was in. I was ready.
That title card, holy fuck! I was sitting there, and when it blew up, I went, "Oh my god!"
It was actually kind of funny because I was like, "Wait a second, did they do like right before they did it?" I was like, "I don't think they said what the movie is yet." And then, bam!
Oh yeah, I forgot. I forgot what movie.
Also, isn't the first movie? Don't they establish that it is Friday the 13th, and at this they just drop that immediately?
Yeah, I think. So.
Yeah, it's just.
I had to check my notes. I would have wrote the title down. Actually, for my segment, no title shout out for this one.
No, because I think that's kind of the joke at this point. Like, I don't think they ever bring back the fact that it's literally Friday the 13th.
I don't know if they do in any of these movies, to be honest.
That's what I mean. I think that might be kind of a joke. I'm pretty sure they do for the
first one.
Yeah, no, that's also what I'm saying. I remember in the first movie, I remember them being like, it's Friday the 13th, you know, something bad might happen. There's this legend that a kid drowned, and in this one they're like, we're going to bang each other until we all come.
Yeah. I mean, after the first movie, they're just called that because
it's just franchise.
Right? Yeah, they don't need to establish that every Friday the 13th something crazy happens.
But doesn't
how many
Michael
years
Myers
do you have to wait for that? Actually, no, maybe not many. If you get to pick and choose what month it is.
Halloween is different because Halloween always takes place.
Yeah, doesn't Michael
Halloween.
Myers always murder on Halloween? Doesn't Freddy always kill on Elm Street?
Doesn't he always? Not in Freddy Goes to Hawaii.
That's Beetlejuice Goes to Hawaii.
Surfing, bitch.
And I'm still waiting for that movie. Yeah.
Yeah, that's because Tim Burton did not want to make another Beetlejuice,
and he also didn't want
to. I'll do it is if you let me set it in Hawaii.
Yeah, they were like,
I want to go on Hawaiian shirt while I make this movie.
It would have been great.
He just thought the funniest step for Beetlejuice was to be like. In a Hawaiian shirt in Hawaii, like haunting like a hotel.
I would watch that. That'd be dope.
It made sense. It makes sense in my head that Beetlejuice would go to Hawaii for some reason. I don't know. I can't explain it, but the vibe
he needs a break from all the ghouling.
But he's still gonna ghoul there. He's gonna convince Lydia to.
Yeah, but it's gonna be nice weather.
Lydia's also wearing a Hawaiian shirt.
It's definitely hilarious to have goth people in a very non-goth setting, right?
Yeah.
That's why the Addams Family movies are so good. Every time you see them outside of their creepy house,
like at a pool,
it's
like
so
when they're in that
jarring,
motel in the second one.
Yeah,
or I think that's the first one.
And he's just wearing one of those like 1920s bathing suits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wear shorts.
Sorry, but to go back to it, Caleb, why don't you hit us with your final thoughts, my man?
Allow me to hit you with my final thoughts. The production value of this did feel like a step up. The story of it felt a little almost bland, sort of. It definitely had a campier, had a campy feel. Like I mentioned earlier.
Well, that's because it's set at a summer camp.
Yeah, but I mean campy like the adjective.
I know, I'm just joking.
So I actually enjoyed this movie more as a comedy than I did as a horror movie. But I also, I mentioned earlier, like I never really watched scary movies back in the day, just because it wasn't of interest to me. And after introducing myself to them a year or two ago and realizing that they're actually just comedies with death in them has really softened me up to them. For this movie, I give it a what do I give it? I give it hooking up and doing it and not dying.
Cool. I don't know what that means, but I'll just go right into my final thoughts.
Yeah, Steve, you're up next.
Yeah, this movie was enjoyable. I think it was a little bit more polished than the first one was. You can tell from just everything. I think the sound editing in this movie is really interesting. It's a little unbalanced at times. The music, the score is really great, but there's a little bit of cheese here and there that doesn't necessarily come out well. But there's lots of moments where it's golden. There's one moment in particular that I'm thinking about where the sheriff enters into the cabin, Jason's like rundown shack, and he swings open a wardrobe, and the noise of the wardrobe opening is like, right, but then they also have this like sting where it's like, like it's almost like a sword being drawn open or unsheathed or something, and it was good, and it stuck out to me. And through that whole scene, they have little moments like that, and they do it throughout the movie as well. And it's really accomplishing tension building in a really good way. But at the end of the day, there are more Jason stories within this franchise that I think are a little bit better thought out and aren't like padded with these weird moments where these teenagers are just telling knock jokes to each other, which is stupid, and I don't think it belongs in any movie. But you know, it's fun. The movie is fun, and it's having fun, and I guarantee you everybody who worked on it had a good time. I believe this movie almost killed the franchise because it didn't perform as well as the first one, but they gave them one more shot with the third one, and I think that one made a lot of money.
They needed something different than Baghead, I think.
Yeah. And I'm excited to go back and watch the third one and play the game. Just seeing how much care was put into that game in terms of locations and authenticity, in terms of like they recreate these sets in the game so perfectly that it's mind bending. Like, you know, these people put a lot of time and care and were super passionate about the franchise to sit down and recreate it, and so many different aspects of it too, from all of the movies that take place at Crystal Lake. It's a shame that the series has been in such a shitty place in terms of the ownership of it. The lawsuit that they were going through ended a couple of years ago, but there's still stuff going on that is holding this franchise back from having any kind of rebirth. And I think it's time, man. I want to see Crystal Lake in the winter time or something. You know, I want something visually completely different. You know, imagine Frozen Camp Crystal Lake. I want to see that shit.
Him doing a kill out on the lake, and like, yeah, they kill him by putting him back in
no sound.
They kill him by putting him back in the lake and freezing him.
Yeah, it would be
great. But then the next summer he just thaws out and fucking right.
Yeah, so I enjoyed it, but I know that I have enjoyed other episodes of Jason more than this episode of Jason. And so I'm going to give it a callback to the first Jason. They didn't kill any animals on screen in this one. That's pretty great. So I'll give it an undecapitated snake. Here you go. That's my rating for you.
Nice. Yeah, I can agree with everything that you guys are saying. Overall, this one just felt more visually interesting. Like, there was just more things happening more frequently than just like long shots of them sitting around a table talking and you can't really hear what they're saying. You know, like the first one had a lot of like just the camp council, like those scenes that we saw of them like at lunchtime and at swimming. The first movie had a lot more of that were just wide shots of camp counselors dicking around.
It's just like filling time.
Yeah.
We got to make this an hour and a half.
Get
some footage of these kids swimming.
Like I was saying before, it is neat to see the evolution of Jason from the first movie to the second to the third. I'm actually excited to watch the third movie. I guess he dies in this, so it'll be neat to see what they do to like resurrect him for the first time, because a big thing about Jason is like his resurrections. The ending is similar to Halloween, I thought, where the ending before he smashes through the window, I guess, when they leave him lying and then he's gone.
Evil is gone from this place. He's evil.
The suspense and the murders were a lot more grand. They were a lot bigger than the first. I know that's not saying much because they were pretty small, but like the first one, the first one does still have that Kevin Bacon death scene, which was a lot more graphic than I think even anything in this movie.
I think the first one had better.
I'll say it again. It's because they had to get rid of that kebab death. That probably would have been something great to see, but they couldn't put it in the movie.
Yeah, which is, I guess, when you got to broaden the audience, you got to make sure that you're including more people, which means that you can't be as graphic. Where the first one was kind of an experiment, I guess.
Almost like indie or whatever. Yeah.
So overall, I tried to go back. I found my review from last year. But on the review, I specifically say you have to watch it to find out my review. So for the first time ever, I'm not going to give it a traditional number review. I'm going to give it
what? You're going to join us?
I'm going to give it a go back and watch last year's episode. Find out what find out what I gave the Friday the 13th Part 1 and add 0.2 to that.
Ooh.
In my heart of hearts, I want to give this movie a 3, but I feel like I liked the first Friday the 13th so much that I probably gave it some dumb rating, like a 4. And there's no way I'm giving this movie a 4.2. I give it like a 3 out of 5. But go back, watch last year's episode, and let me know in the comments. But nobody's going to do that. Nobody's ever going to do that, and I just got to...
Someone's going to do that?
Maybe in the year 2029 when I finally fucking admit all the murders I've done. Because my name is Jason.
You are the Jason.
Rink, 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 rink.
Whoa, you're Jason.
Rink. But on that note, as always, for Kaylin and for Steve, I'm Jason.
For Jason and for Kaylin, I am Steven.
And for Steven and Jason, I'm Kellen.
And I always have to ask, especially when we've opened the Grimoire of Familiar Killers. Hey, did you see this one?
Hey, did you see this one?
Did you see this one? I'm sorry. No, I can't do it again.
Too late.
So we're gonna play some video games. If you guys wanna.
Oh yeah, come watch the video.
Keep watching the channel.
Let's play video games.
I think we're gonna play some Fortnite.
Watch us kill and die.
Do you guys want to play some pretty sober Fortnite, or do you want to play some Folgies, or do you want to play some? It's pretty much
what do you mean by pretty sober?
I mean, I've had half a glass of wine.
I've had 1.5 beers so far. I plan on drinking much more, but I'm just saying.
I've had 4 beers so far.
What? Since when? Like, since what time? Since, like, right after you got off work?
I had 1 beer during the last half hour. I mean, what?
What?
Hopefully your employer is not listening to this.
I didn't say anything. What are you